Hi everyone, this is Zach. I am in downtown El Paso and just wanted to share something that happened to me about a week and a half ago on a Wednesday outside of Tom Mays Park, which is the main entrance right now to Franklin Mountain State Park in El Paso. It's on the west side of town. So it was a Wednesday. It was late afternoon. I would say after 4, also after 5 when the encounter happened. And so what happened is I was parked at outside of the state park at the entrance, um, and I was standing outside. And before I got into my car, I was just walking around, and out of the corner of my eye, somebody approached me. It was a male in a dark coat. I couldn't tell what else he was wearing. Um, he was in a dark truck. I would say black or blue, dark, heavy duty pickup truck. And he approached me and then asked me if I had paid uh, the entrance fee to get into the park. And then I answered that, and I'll bring that up later in another video, but this is the part one. So I just want to fill you in on kind of what happened first of all, and then update you again as far as what then happened next, and then what will be coming next. So anyway, he approached me, said HPA, and I just said nope, not knowing who he was and not knowing why he was asking me. And he said, "You're just gonna stiff us like that?" And I said, "Yep." And still nothing. So he went back into his truck, which is parked across the two lanes that are, one's the entrance to Tom Mays and the other is the exit to Tom Mays. And then right by on the other side, there's the entrance to asphalt walking or multi-use path where his truck was parked diagonally, which is for pedestrian and cyclists, which is not a place you're supposed to be parking your car in the first place. I think he had tinted windows, I'm not for sure. So anyway, we have this interaction in the parking lot, and then he gets in his truck, and then he proceeds, and he wasn't very nice, I'll mention. He was kind of stern and unfriendly, kind of demanding, and looked angry or upset to me. Just by his face and the way he was standing, it was in a defensive mode. He was taller than me, and I would say larger as far as weight. I'm about 5'8" and a half or so. And so anyway, he gets back in his truck, drives across the median, and then into the parking lot, which is gravel, over to where my car is parked. And he then takes his truck and parks directly behind my car, like to block me in, but leaving space because I was standing in the back there not knowing he was coming over there. So he then comes out of his truck after he's parked it behind my car, comes out with his cell phone, takes a picture of my license, and then turns away without saying anything, gets back into his truck. And at that point, I started getting into my car, not knowing what was going on. And luckily there was just enough space for me to back out and leave, which is what I did. And then I didn't look back to see what he did. But it was really kind of a scary situation, really sketchy. And so I was kind of concerned about it when I drove off, and then a day or two passed. This was Wednesday, so like a day passed. And then Friday, it turned out he had gone to the house. My wife was there when not he, but an officer, a police officer with Texas State Parks had gone to my house, and which kind of shocked me. And she just told him, well, I wasn't home and I was at work, I'm sure. But anyway, or maybe out running. I don't remember exactly what time he came, but this police officer came to the house and left his card and mentioned to my wife, Michelle, that he knew we were involved in the community. and which I thought was a weird comment to make, just because of the stuff I've been involved with the city, with Save Lost Dog Initiative, and just saving our open spaces out here, plus the trail running, etc. So I get home that evening, she tells me all about it, and then I believe it was Saturday or Sunday when I picked up the phone and called him on his cell phone, which is on the card that he left, and then he asked if he could come over and talk to me, and I kept questioning him because he wouldn't give me any information or details. So eventually he just got out that it was about the situation that happened with me and that person in the parking lot, and wanted to know my side of the story. So I thought that was interesting, and I was really reserved and just kept asking him like why we couldn't do it over the phone, and he was insistent on coming in person. So we finally agreed that he could just come over from where he was and we would talk then. And he said it'd probably take about 15 minutes or so. So I went out into the front of the house to wait for him, just because I didn't want to disturb people that were inside the house at the time, because I didn't know what it was about really. I knew it had to do with the interaction with that person at Tom Mays, but as it turned out, the officer came, we spoke. He brought a partner with him, which he didn't mention. He came in the white official truck of the Texas Parks and Wildlife, or from Franklin Mountain State Park, but he was in official uniform and an official car that I recognize, having run on the trails there frequently. So he shows up, and then he tells me that this person was a park ranger, and so I told him my side of the story. And so he wanted to confirm what had happened, and I told him, well, this person never, if he was a park ranger, never said that he wasn't in uniform, and wasn't in the vehicle of the state park or Franklin Mountain State Park. And so he kind of brushed that aside and said, well, that's so really, he was just unfriendly, and just not like he was making a report on that. But the officer did agree that the conversation that the ranger and I had it matched up, that we both said that the same thing happened as far as what was said. And then we talked about other things about the entrance to the park and things of that nature. So with this first part of this video, and letting you know what happened to me just in that brief moment. Okay, so I want to get your feedback and see if something like this has happened similarly to you. So Sunday he came out, right? Well, Sunday, the day before, I was out at High Ridge Park on the west side of town because I was volunteering to help with a trail run out there. And what happened was, and Michelle was with me, my wife, because she was running and I was volunteering. And so during the course of the interview on Sunday, when I was talking to the officer, I asked him about that comment he made to my wife. He was like, well, I checked out your car and saw all the stickers, and then I Googled your name, and that's how I found all that stuff out. And I was like, wow, that seems like a lot for from somebody who's out there to talk to me about not paying an entrance fee, this was what this all came out to be, was me not paying an entrance fee during the shutdown, which I didn't know either way, but I'll get into that later in a later video. But so Friday comes to the door, leaves a card, I'm not there. Saturday, he tells me he comes to the house again, sees that my car isn't there, Googles my information to find out where I am, and then he goes over to High Ridge Park to look for me, to talk to me. And so allegedly, so he says that he got there, he's like, you know what, this probably isn't the best place for it. And he wouldn't have been able to find me anyway, based on where I was positioned as a volunteer for the race. But I was like, that seems kind of excessive. And so I'm not sure if he called me again, but anyway, I called him Sunday, and then we talked, and that's where I got a lot of the information. So I just felt it was strange, the lengths they were going to about somebody not paying an entrance fee. So my question to you right now, and this pertains solely with Franklin Mountain State Park and the Tom Mays entrance. But if it's happened to you at another entrance where they don't have personnel at, please let me know, because that day that I went to Franklin Mountain State Park at the Tom Mays unit, there wasn't any personnel on duty at the guard station where they take your payment. And so they usually have green boxes at the different entrances. But like I said, there wasn't anybody this day, and I just assumed it was during the shutdown. And I'll get more into that later, okay? I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm just passing on information. And so what I want to know is if you, the viewer, have had that experience at Franklin Mountain State Park anywhere, or at Tom Mays, at the Tom Mays entrance, where they just like were so eager to get you or track you down, or even how did they approach you if you didn't pay an entrance fee, or they allege you didn't pay an entrance fee? What did they ask for, and things like that? How did that conversation go? But really, I want to hear from people where something similar, like what happened to me, happened to you, where somebody out of uniform, not in a state park vehicle, approached you and confronted you like that, and got so close as to back up in back of your car to try to block you in. I really want to hear about those, but I really want to hear positive or negative about your experience about paying or not paying, or any confrontations that you've had with the park rangers out there. So thanks a lot, and I'll be coming again with the part 2, part 3, and see what happens from here. But I do have more to share. It's not all to this story, and like I said, I'm not saying I'm wrong or right. I'm just sharing the information right now to kind of get the conversation going. Thanks. Talk to you later.